So we're hanging out here with Jonny from Nothing More, and Jonny, I apologize for my buddy here. He's not a professional. He's not a radio dude. He's just a fan, and we have this little website called Two Doods Reviews where we review everything. We started just like hanging out in the backyard and enjoying, wine and cigars and frickin' cooking and stuff like that together.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let's do this little YouTube thing because it'll be fun. It'll give us something to do in our spare time. We run out of topics to talk about. And it's just kind of morphed into all of a sudden doing music reviews and shit. And, we go way far back. It was funny. One of the first times that after I got introduced to the band and I'm surfing on Jonny's Facebook page, stalking a little bit, and I'm seeing these pictures of he and a beautiful young lady, and they're taking pictures in a lake bed, and I'm going, wow, well, that's a little crazy. That almost looks like Medina. Is that Medina Lake? And Jonny pops up like, how the hell did you know that? I'm like, oh, that's my old stomping ground. So before you know it, we're talking about, Marshall High School and growing up in San Antonio and this, that, and the other. Now, San Antonio hasn't, necessarily been known as like a musical hotbed. We had the Union Underground several years ago. Certainly up north of San Antonio in Austin, it's, they're kind of a pretentious music mecca. They certainly were many years ago with the advent of South by Southwest. There's still a music scene there, but all the clubs on 6th Street have been replaced by like speed bars and shot bars and college bars and stuff. Not the same vibe of music. Okay. But, Jonny, where did you get your musical bug? I mean, did you start in elementary school, middle school, what?
Man, I went to a rock show with my dad when I was 7 years old, and
what show was it?
Man, I don't even know if you'll know these bands. They're all Christian rock bands.
Hey, I played in Christian rock bands in San Antonio. Paradox was one of my first bands. We played with Guardian Angel and Stryper, and
Okay, all right. So you might know is Petra.
Oh yeah, of course, love Petra.
Yeah, Whiteheart.
Oh yeah.
I think it was Grammy Train and Johnny Q Public.
Okay, all right.
And I remember looking at my dad, and I remember looking at the drummer, and I remember looking at him, and I said, that's what I want to do.
That's cool.
And I just knew since I was 7. I mean, I say I knew. I went through a lot of phases like every kid who wants to be a cowboy, and then he wants to be an astronaut. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you go through a lot of phases along the way, but music was the one thing that stuck through all of them.
Right.
And then I got I broke all our kitchen utensils and pots and pans, and my mom kind of caved in and said, let's buy him a drum set. So
you started as a drummer?
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Awesome.
I didn't start singing until I was about 21 years old. I tried to join the choir when I was about 8. No, it might have been right at the same time I started playing drums. I tried to join the choir and didn't make it. And there was only about 10 people auditioning. So I thought, if I can't make it out of 10 people in this tiny little school, then singing's probably not my future.
Now, let me ask you, when you auditioned for that, Jonny, did you do the entire audition like this, like you do in concert where you're beating the crap out? Maybe that was it.
I didn't make it, like that so much.
Well, the new album is called The Stories We Tell Ourselves. Is that right? Am I getting that right? Stories We Tell Ourselves?
Yep.
Okay. It's ambitious, man. I mean, 18 tracks. Granted, there are some interludes in here. But, wow, a lot of bands have the sophomore slump, so they follow up their second album with something that might be either exactly like the first album or a little inferior or whatever. But you guys have broken the mold here. The pressure had to be on. I mean, what have the last 2 years looked like in in your life, man?
I always told people when they would say, there's a sophomore slump and a lot of bands go through it, you might experience it. I kind of always just brushed them off and was like, not us. That's not something I see in our future. But at the same time, I definitely felt it more on this record than on the last one. And I think there's some common reason with bands that is true. I think it's the first record you spend all this time with very little pressure, and you're kind of just doing exactly what you want to do, and you have fun, and it's kind of that beginner's luck.
Yeah.
For us, it wasn't a beginner's luck. We've been making records before then, but it was kind of our first real record as a, at least the members that ended up being in Nothing More, and also the kind of the sound that we were going for.
Yeah.
It was really our first, where all the pieces came together. So on this record, I definitely felt and experienced why that sophomore slump exists. I think a lot of record labels and just people surrounding the band put a lot of pressure to get that product out as quickly as possible, because the sooner you follow up, the better for momentum and all these different things, or at least that's what they think. Then there's bands like Tool, who take,
there's Tool.
Take 10 years to come out with a record. But I think we always saw ourselves or identified with bands like Tool. Not that we want to take 10 years on a record, but that when we put it out, it's going to be something that lasts a little longer. So we don't need to play that rat race game like the other bands where we're just scurrying to get something out. We feel like we have a deeper connection with our fans, and we're not worried about them running off and forgetting who we are. So we took a little time with this one. For us, I think it was about a year and a half, after we were done touring off the last record.
Yeah.
And, but I felt it, man. I felt the slump. I felt the pressure. I felt everything. And personal life, there was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So it was the most difficult record I've ever made, was this one.
All right.
Well, and it's huge. I mean, I'm looking at the sheer volume of tracks, and it's a big record.
Let's get it started. With any luck here, the goal is to play this record song by song and kind of just about a minute and a half of it. So we're not going to take 2 hours of your time, Johnny. But just kind of discuss a little bit what's going on, because in this day and age, everybody's into, the one song, the single. They play it on Spotify or whatever else. But fewer and fewer people get into the album and hear how one song flows to the next and flows to the next. And you guys are brilliant with that. First song on the record is Ambition Destruction. It's pretty much 12 seconds of noise, and then Do You Really Want It? I'm keeping my fingers crossed my CD player actually plays here. Let's go. Let's hear it. And begin. And go. God damn it, Andy.
It's me.
It's you. I think it is you.
I think I have an electromagnetic field.
We were just talking about the angst on making the record.
Interferes with electronics. Try it again.
It's the same kind of angst I get with trying to make the record play.
There's something about electronics and needing to show somebody something, because every time I try to show someone something or make it work, it doesn't work. There's some
I can't find it.
Universal law at work.
I get it. And this is it's a crappy Gemini CD. You go into a place nowadays and ask them if you can buy a CD player, and they go, "What? What are you talking about?" All right, here we go. Do You Really Want It? Angst-ridden, Nothing More. Do you really want it? Yeah, and then we get that.
I'll try not to stomp my feet.
The message behind this song, everybody wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves. I have to ask you, with all these pressures and how you started this interview with, how much of this album is you from a personal perspective, and how much of the album was written by the other guys? And maybe, I don't know if a record like this, one guy writes 3 songs, another guy gets another quarter of the album, another guy gets another quarter of the album, or is this all you, man?
We're a very intertwined band in the sense that we all have a hand in every song.
Okay.
I think the lyrics, singing is my instrument in the band now that I don't do the drums. So, Mark brings 90% of the guitar ideas, Dan brings the bass, Ben brings the drums. So I do bring the majority of the lyrics and the song idea or direction. But that doesn't mean that there's definitely songs that, like Fade In Fade Out, for example, Mark brought that whole idea to the tape and had written a large majority of it.
Okay.
But with a lot of the songs, I mean, it does start a lot of from my perspective, but we actually try to get everyone in the band feeling like the lyrics relate specifically to their story and their personality. Yeah. And I feel like it's actually a better litmus test for the real world, because there's a lot of people out there that are not like me, and they're more like Mark, or they're more like Daniel or Ben. And so if it can work for all of us, I think that there's a higher chance that it's going to connect with a lot of people.
You're right on. I completely agree with you. Number 3 on the record, this is an interlude, Convict Divide.
Our rage, and our very proper rage, against evil things which occur in this world, must not overstep itself.
We are going to terminate our race in a mutual massacre of scapegoats.
Now then the question arises, who's deceiving who? Who's fooling who? Well, you're deceiving yourself. Everybody takes the shortcuts. Everybody plays tricks. Everybody has an element of duplicity and deception.
Deception. When I first heard the last record, I heard this guy talking in between some of the songs, and I asked your manager, I said, who the hell is that? Because what he's saying is really cool.
And how did you pick him?
He gave me this guy's name, Alan Watts. Who was responsible for bringing Alan Watts and some of that old audio from his philosophy discussions into the fold?
Yeah, that was mainly my doing. I go down YouTube rabbit trails all the time, and especially when we're on tour and I can't fall asleep in the bunk, or just there's a lot of time to kill. You know, it's a lot of hurry up and wait on the road. I would just find myself going down these little trails, and I've always been into philosophy. That was one of my favorite subjects coming out of high school. And so philosophy and science and all these different things led me to a lot of these videos that kept linking back to this one person named Alan Watts, who I'd never heard of before, and I think most people haven't heard of him. But he's one of those guys that I would listen to some of the things he said, maybe not some of the things you've even heard on the records, but some of his other lectures that aren't on there, and I'd listen to it and I'd go, wow, that's like really forward thinking, and that's spot on. And like I never thought in such a it's almost like mental jujitsu. It's like he turns everything backwards on you, and you're like, whoa, I hadn't thought about that before. And when I looked up the year that it was from, you know, he's saying this stuff in the
70s and 80s, right?
I think he died in the 80s. I think a lot of the recordings were from the 50s and 60s.
Wow.
I think, but even some in the 40s, I think. I could be wrong about that, but they're old. And some of the things he says, you know, a lot of people are having – there's popularized ideas now, like they're new things, but really he was saying a lot of stuff way before. So he's probably my favorite philosopher. And if one of those people that – if you got asked the question, like, who would you meet that's dead? If you could rescue one person, this would be the dude.
Wow. Yeah, I drove my wife nuts for about a year after you guys turned me on to Alan Watts, because I'd wake up on Saturday and Sunday mornings, put my iPhone in the dock, and then just crank up Alan Watts and listen to these lectures from his different YouTube videos, right? My wife, after a while, just be like, God, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to go downstairs and listen to, you know, jazz or something. So, is Let 'Em Burn about Donald Trump or maybe alternative facts? Or is there any political motivation in Let 'Em Burn?
You know what? There's definitely political motivation. I mean, when we were writing this record, all the 2016 leading up to 2017 political stuff was going on.
Yeah.
And we were, I think like everyone else, going, what the hell's going on? Like, is this really happening? Like, this seems like a dream or a funny joke. So it's, but the thing for us is that it's really about everybody. And when we say everybody, we're not just talking about the politicians. We're talking about everybody, literally. So when we say Let 'Em Burn, we're not just focused on the politicians. We're focused on the people that make all the tiny decisions that create a complex system that keeps these people in power in the first place. So it isn't aimed at Donald Trump. It's not aimed at Hillary Clinton. It's not aimed really at any particular person. It's really pointing the finger back at everyone else. Because the focus always gets put on the guy who gets there, but it's like,
look, the collective consciousness of.
Yeah, he didn't do that on his own.
All right, cut number 4. Let 'Em Burn. And are you saying get down, everybody get down? Or are you saying everybody lie? What do you say? All I hear is everybody. Arr.
Yeah, just everybody, yeah. And then everybody lies. Everybody lies.
Okay, all right. when that chorus rips in, it's like the song just opens up and boom. You guys went through a drummer change toward the middle of the end of the touring cycle on the last record. How? And Andy doesn't know this, but every member of the band and Nothing More have drumming, percussion in their background, correct?
Nice.
Not really. Mark and Daniel don't have any formal drum training. I just handed them some sticks and said, "Hey, hit some stuff."
Get out of here and hit. Okay,
Yeah,
so the whole bass thing is like
It's the best way to learn.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I had drumline background, and so did Ben, our new drummer.
Nice.
And so we incorporate and use that with what we do. So yeah, we try to all play together. And one thing I wanted to, sorry, I'm kind of rewinding here a little bit, but on Let 'Em Burn, one thing I was thinking about was that song, out of all the songs on the record, really relates to the title of the album more than any other one, because that was originally inspired by getting kind of frustrated with the narratives that are going on, whether it's in the media or on Facebook. Because it's all of us kind of pick a side or a team or a perspective, and it's very easy to just hit share with confirmation bias going, yeah, this makes my point of view look very good. But at the end of the day, I really believe that everybody's full of shit. And I think nobody really knows what's going on most of the time. Like, we might have some basic facts, and sure, like Donald Trump might say something that's ridiculous, but a lot of times I felt like both sides, there was many times when it was treated unfairly just because people hated them for other reasons. And I don't know, even a lot of the racial narrative stuff going on now, it's just, I think it's leveraged to buy votes, and I think it's used to keep the division process in play. I think, like, if people who really don't want racism, then let's stop fucking talking about it. Like, it's so, like, I know that there's history and all that, but, like, I think people are just, it's a masquerading as like being these white knights to try to fix the problem, when in reality they're perpetuating it and creating narratives that are the stories we tell ourselves, like about everything that's going on. And these stories are just, I think most of the time, maybe there's some truth in them, but there's a lot of untruth, and I think everybody should be way more skeptical.
Wow. Yeah, I agree.
Deep, man. And you're right. The best way to avoid that divide is to leave it in the past and move forward.
Yeah.
Create a new history.
Moving on to cut 5, Ripping Me Apart. Did you work with a producer, Johnny? I saw an awful lot of Facebook posts and pictures and stuff of you behind the board in a room. But there's some interesting vocal. The reason I mentioned that is there's an interesting kind of vocal backtrack. Yeah, look, there you go. Here's my life.
Real?
Yeah, here's my life.
This is where I spent most of my days working.
Yeah.
And then sleeping.
Yeah. Oh, God. Wow. Oh, my God. You are nuts, dude. So
locked in the cave.
Tell me about how you got this really bizarre kind of vocal backmasking almost in Ripping Me Apart. You know the part I'm talking about?
On the verses? Is that what you're referring to?
Here, let's listen to a little bit of it.
Yeah.
If it'll play. There we go.
Came to with your hands around my neck. Angel in my ear, in a garden to my back. You take the wind from me, but I shout for the last time. Keep your convictions, I'm tired of playing the victim. You better move forward, motherfucker. But you pull me right back together. Yeah, you pull me right back. You pull. Oh God, you make me apart.
That right there with almost like the record scratch where it kind of repeats and goes back. Sounds like a tape is being pulled back through a machine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually, I had this delay that I used a lot on the record. In this record, we did a little different than the last one. I built like a vocal rig. So I had this little station with all these little, let's see right here, like all these like little guitar pedals.
Okay.
This is one I used a lot. Earthquaker Devices sent me a bunch of awesome effects. And so I would put all these together and run my vocal through it. So when we were in the rehearsal room, I wasn't just working on lyrics. I had my hands busy with knobs and buttons. And so I was kind of getting ideas that would be inspired by the production in real time. Because a lot of times you go into a studio and they throw a delay or an effect on your voice after the fact.
Yeah.
But if you had that when you were writing, like sometimes it affects how you perform or the idea or the lyric that you create. Just like a guitar player, if he didn't have delay, he probably wouldn't come up with a certain idea. So that was the philosophy we had going into this record. And when I had this delay, it was a tape delay. You were right.
Yeah.
I would fire it, and then I would change tempos on it really quick, and that gave it that that kind of bendy thing that you're hearing.
Yeah.
And I captured it and put it on the record.
Very cool. Do you have a question?
No, I was going to comment on that because, funny, driving over here, that's a song that was playing in my car.
That's what you're listening to.
Yeah, but of course, I had to listen to this. I want to at least know the music, and I've been listening for, I don't know, a week or something like that. But powerful. I want to say that what I think makes your music different from most of what we hear out there, in addition to the message, because I'm more conscious of lyrics now that we're doing this. I'm usually the guy listening to the beat. I go to bands usually to watch a drummer, right? I want to hear, and I'm going to hear what they're doing, and that's where I tune in, right?
Yeah.
But the sound is so big, and it makes sense when you talk about all the buttons and knobs and everything. You're bringing stuff into that, and I think it's bitching that you're bringing that in the front end and not doing it all post.
Yeah.
That's wild, and that's I think what makes you cutting edge, probably.
Cool. Well, thanks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's definitely one of the elements that made this record different, and I don't know. We're really happy with the results after doing it.
Speaking of different, cut number 6 on the album, when your manager Will first let me hear a little bit of this one, I went, whoa, that's a real different sound for Nothing More. The song is Don't Stop. And different sound from a vocal perspective, too. Now, I got to ask, were you just really grasping for those high notes, or did you use some type of a vocal pitch? Question number 1. And the second question, anything about Flint, Michigan in this? Because there's a lyric in there that has something about lead pipes, the water through your lead pipes or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we love Flint, Michigan. We always play the machine shop up there.
Yeah,
but we don't
101
up there. Yeah, this was one of those songs that we were struggling for a long time to get, or at least I was struggling to get the right vocal to what I thought was some very cool music. Like we actually wrote a song that was pretty much this chorus and the verses on this song, minus the hip hop kind of 808 stuff that you hear with that beat.
Yeah.
Minus that, all the rock parts were another song that we had written like 3 years ago. And the song was called Bloodline. And we could never quite get it right. We tried taking it this really heavy, like almost Seven Dusty kind of direction.
Yeah.
And every time we took it in like a harder rock direction, it just always felt like you could hear this song from another band. Why are we doing this? You know what I mean? Like, it just sounds like another heavy rock song. And so we were like, let's do something different with it, because the music's already bitchin'. At least we felt was really exciting and energetic. So that's when I just started experimenting with how I was singing. And I never listened to Prince that much growing up, but I had some friends who was really into him. And I think maybe he was on my mind because he had passed away at the time or something, but something about Prince popped into my head, and I was kind of joking around and just doing some high vocal stuff that I don't usually sing like. And then I threw a bunch of dirt on it by like screaming it.
Yeah.
And I just kind of found a different way to sing. And I was like, I mean, when you listen to this record, you're going to hear a little more of a spectrum, I think, of vocals from heavy to soft to intimate to whatever. So this is just one of those colors that I explored in a big palette.
Dynamite, let's take a listen to it. Don't Stop. Yeah, I love that bass and the wow, wow, wow.
Pure energy.
Pure energy.
I don't remember who did that song back in the 80s.
Like the dinosaurs are coming.
Yeah.
Like a shotgun in a
love that. And every single lady that I've played this song for in our immediate circle, this is the
This is
one.
their workout song.
Yeah, this is the one that they all go, oh, I love that one, and their shoulders start going.
So motivational. When you think about that, listen to this, right? You're just talking about digging deep, don't stop. I would totally listen to that working out.
You obviously, you obviously have not been bitten by the breakfast taco bug. I don't know how you could grow up in San Antonio and keep that girlish figure of yours. What's the trick aside from working out like a beast?
I love breakfast tacos, man. I'm never gonna get that up.
Right on, brother.
Man,
right on.
I got I've always been active, from whether it was drums or sports or just something, but I got more into the fitness, I guess, community and exercise about a year and a half to 2 years ago. So when we were working on this record, really what happened was when we worked on our last record, the self-titled one, I went crazy. I literally I lost maybe 10 to 20 pounds. I was already skinny. I would lock myself in the room and work all day and night on the record. It's like I was like addicted to it, and which probably wasn't good for my relationship at the time or my sanity. And this record, when it came around, when we were kind of laying the groundwork and the philosophy for how we were going to accomplish this one, I told everyone else and I told myself, I'm like, look, I'm going to create some boundaries. I'm going to work from this hour to this hour, and then I'm going to do something physically active to keep my mental sanity, because I just literally lost it on the last record. And this record, for that reason alone, I kept it together and I felt stable and I didn't have so much anxiety and all these things. So I'd go to the gym every day at like 6 o'clock. And so when I went to the gym every day, I also was going through personal stuff. I ended up going through a divorce, which was a very rough thing this year. A lot of that poured into the record, obviously. But I needed, music only goes so far, especially when you're creating it. Like when you're performing it, you can vent all your emotions into it because it's physical, because I'm jumping around and moving my body. But when I'm sitting in a chair just creating, in the studio, my body needs some form of vent for the stress. So that's what I did the last 2 years, was just go to the gym every day, and just every rep I would think about all the stuff I was going through and just breathe it out. You know?
Right on. All right, moving right along. A funny little song called Funny Little Creatures. What can you tell us about this before we take a quick listen?
Man, this one was inspired. Let me think for a second, because there's a lot of things that went into this one. But really, like Alan Watts on the record we were talking about, another big person for me is Carl Jung.
Okay.
And
Hang on, I'm writing that down. Carl
Jung.
It's
spelled Jung, Jung. He was, you've heard of Freud, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jung was kind of
Sigmund Freud. Yeah. Him and Freud were kind of the two giants at the time when it came to psychology. And Jung had this idea or this concept called the archetypes. And without getting too deep into it, it was basically like if I said, okay, that person is a policeman, and that person is a soccer mom, and that person is a rock star or a basketball player, or
just by
whatever.
looks alone.
Huh?
Just by looks alone, or just by profession?
By profession. Like, they have a role, right? They have some sort of pattern that their life kind of goes into that's similar to other people in that same pattern.
Okay.
The archetypes were like that, but when it came to mental states.
Okay.
So people had patterns that were like the hero pattern, or the victim pattern, or the I'm trying to think of what else. The jester, someone who just laughs, like that's how they deal with problems, is they just laugh it off and don't take life too seriously. So those are all archetypes that some people identify more with or less with. And so when I had that idea in my head, but I went to a counselor. I'd never been to counseling in my life.
Wow.
Was something I always, just was like, I don't need that. I'm fine. I have I'm healthy. I have a good life. I don't have any problems. But I started going, and actually it was one of the most enlightening things I'd ever done, because I really got to dive deep with somebody who was wiser than me and more experienced, and was a very good mirror, better than just your friends, for example. It would really tell you how it is. And it started becoming clear to me that there was a lot of things under the hood going on in my head that were things I didn't even know about that were driving why I would be repulsed from something or attracted to something, decisions I would make in life, the direction I would go. And I found all these little creatures that seemed to have, you know, some of them were small, some of them were big, some of them started sprouting legs, and I could sense now that I'm looking at all the stuff going on under the hood that they were growing. You know, good creatures, bad creatures, all of it. So that was kind of...
peyote in San Antonio is huge right now.
Yeah,
huge.
I bet.
I want to do that in the desert sometime. That's on my bucket list.
So anyway, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh, that's pretty much it. It's just the little creatures that run our lives.
Let's take a listen. Cut number 7.
It's funny how I can give the best advice.
Love that line.
I can't follow, so I tell
So true.
myself. So I tell myself. It's funny how I can push the pills, but I can't swallow. So I tell myself. So I tell myself.
You know, I'm almost getting a common theme through the record of acknowledging adversity and then finding a way to empower yourself from that adversity and rise above it. Moving on to the interlude here at 8 with more of Alan Watts, and I hear a little bit. He talks about fear. It's called React Respond. And I listened to a tape when I was about 15, 16 years old. I would go to sleep with this 30-minute tape that was about fear of success. You know, a lot of people have fear of failure, but a lot of people also have fear of success.
Probably almost
bigger.
Yeah, and I listened to it, and I wanted to make sure, just because of title alone, I wanted to make sure that message got here, that I was never too fearful of fearing success. So take a listen to this.
You will find, therefore, that if you get with reality, all sorts of illusions disappear. All sorts of illusions disappear. But you must remember that the secret to all this is not to be afraid of fear. When you can really allow yourself to be afraid, and you don't resist the experience of fear, you are truly beginning to master fear. But when you refuse to be afraid, you are resisting fear. And that simply sets up a vicious circle of being afraid of fear and being afraid of being afraid of fear. If, then, you try to obliterate fear, you're working in the wrong way. To attack fear is to strengthen it. As if you were God. That is to say, you don't trust anybody and you're the dictator and you have to keep everybody in line. You lose the divine element. Because what you're doing is simply defending yourself. So then, the principle is, the more you give it away, the more it comes back. You see that everything is dissolving constantly, that we're all falling apart, we're all in the process of constant death, then you truly understand that you don't have to let go because there's nothing to hold on to.
Nothing to hold on to. I was thinking about something while we were listening to that. So, Johnny, you could bring Alan back today. What would Alan say about our world today?
Oh, wow.
Oh man,
he'd probably go, take me back out.
Yeah.
Can I go back?
Yeah, he's like, let's be back. A lot of the stuff he said, I applies just as much today as it ever has.
I would almost say it's in some areas more poignant today than
without
when he was first talking about it.
But when you think about the time when he was saying this, it was a very different world. I mean, you think, I think back to the 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s. We're old, so we were conscious back then, right? And well, not really, but kind of.
Yeah. In between drinks.
In between drinks, right? Back in the days, right? So no, I just think about that. I look at the world today and compare it to this world 20, 30 years ago, and it astounds me where we're at today when we were just talking about the divide in this country. And I'm sure it's always been there to a point, and it's been worse at times, it's been better at times. But I listen to this guy and I wonder, what would this guy say if he came out in today's world with all of the technology that we have? Because it seems like a lot of what he did was very science-based. And what would he be, how would he feel about how we do things today? The fact that we're talking right now this way didn't exist in his world.
I would think he, of course I don't know, but I'm speculating that he would probably address how technology creates more connection in a literal sense. I don't mean connection like in a philosophical or emotional sense, but in a literal sense, like the fact that we're talking right now and we can connect to so many more different people all over the place. I think that causes an what's the word? An overestimated sense of importance. Basically, the age of narcissism.
Or security, because when we get tired of the discussion, we can click off. When you're tired of talking to somebody on text or you just don't want to take their call, you can click off. But when you're one-on-one hanging out, right, you can't just walk out of the room without insulting somebody, right? Okay, so let's move along here. We've got the longest video ever. Sorry. The Great Divorce. You're talking about something that I would imagine is both literal and figurative with the Great Divorce, yeah?
You know what's funny? We wrote this song, and it had the title to it before I even went through my divorce. So it had nothing. It really didn't have to do with that. It was actually a title from a C.S. Lewis book. It was a fantasy kind of philosophy novel. It's hard to describe, but basically it was this this world where it was like the afterlife, but heaven was a place that was very beautiful, but it was very uncomfortable. And the grass was the greenest grass you could ever see, but it hurt your feet to walk on. And hell was like this very comfortable place, but it was very dingy and overcrowded. And so it was this interesting kind of look at our concepts of, what we idealize as a heaven or the best of everything and a hell, and brought in a little bit of a sense of reality from earth to both pictures. And I actually had this crazy experience on the last record when I was on the road, and something I had on my bucket list, which was to smoke DMT. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I've heard of it. In fact, Joe Rogan talks about DMT.
Yes. Yeah. Joe Rogan was actually, he did a documentary or was on a documentary about it many years ago that I watched, and amongst other things in my research about it. But long story short, they call it the spirit molecule or the dream drug. It's already in your brain. It comes out when you sleep and you dream at night. Yeah. And when you're born and when you die, they say it releases a lot in your brain. So when I did this experience, I won't go into the long story of it, but basically I had one of the most incredible points of view that I've ever had, just like I imagine an astronaut probably has looking back down at Earth. Yeah. That's what I experienced looking at my own brain and my own soul. And I got to go in outer space of my own sense of self or body or whatever.
And you were conscious enough to remember it afterwards, which is really wild.
Because I don't remember my dreams.
Yeah, I've always been one to remember, well, not all my dreams. I have plenty of dreams I don't remember, but I'll have these very impressionable experiences that I'll never forget in my dreams. And this was one of those experiences where I saw all this stuff that I was holding on to that was such a waste of energy, like grudges and negative feelings towards myself and others. And like, long story short, I was walking on air the next 2 weeks because I let go of all of it. It was like an emotional, spiritual, psychological shit. You know, it just like I let go of all. And it was in that moment that when we started writing this song, something about the music made me feel that divorcing from my body feeling, where I thought I was going to die when I did it. Like, you know, once I'd forgotten that I'd gone so deep in, I thought I was dying. And it really, I thought I was not going to see anybody again. I was letting go of my body. That was it. So they call it the death training drug as well. So anyway, so that inspired this song, connected with the C.S. Lewis novel. Okay. But it, you know, it does make sense when I look back now, actually having gone through a divorce as well.
It's the great divorce from Nothing More. Check it out. And coolest drum line.
I love it.
This is my 15-year-old. You know Caleb. This is his favorite song on the record here.
Oh.
Unbelievable. You know, Jonny, I have to say that your songwriting, the topics, the lyrical content of what you're talking about, you have a really keen ability that not everybody has to touch on subjects, and you spoke about this a little bit earlier, of human commonalities. You know, a relatability that I think everybody in one way, shape, or form can relate to. And I got this big time in track number 10, Still in Love. Well, let's take a quick listen to this and we'll talk about it.
Feels like better days have passed, and I'm not betting being better or the best would bring us back. How long have we been in this hole? We were gonna grow old together, but now we're just growing old. I try, yeah. I try. I'm still in love with you. I'm still in love with you.
Yeah, you know, I mean, having a long-term relationship is not easy work. And you say, we tried so damn hard. I can feel your passion. And again, I don't know if this was pre-divorce, post-divorce, while you were going through the through that horrible situation. Because I've gone through it, man, and it
I've
sucks.
been through it.
And you know, but it doesn't even really have to be a divorce. I mean, my very first girlfriend, we dated for 1.5 years, and I found out she was screwing somebody else half the time that we were dating. And just how that rips your heart out after all that you put into it. You just don't cut it off. You still have feelings, no matter how badly you've been wronged. You still have feelings for the other person.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're still in love.
Yeah. I wrote. Well, we wrote it, but the Still in Love concept I worked on when right when I was going through a separation. So divorce wasn't even on the table yet. So there was still a lot that we were both trying to do to make it work. But yeah, I mean, you touched on it where it's like you're trying to get your heart and your head to get on the same page, and head just cannot see why you're doing what you're doing, and your heart can't help but be attached because that's how it works. It's a gooey fucking thing, it just gets stuck to things.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think a lot of people, if they haven't already, at some point in life will find themselves there where they're in that spot where they wish they could just, be done, cut it, or fix it, either direction. Just go one way or the other, but being torn is the worst spot.
Now, Alone Together, again, kind of an interlude. There's no Alan Watts here, and when I think Alone Together, I think about those times where, I'm exhausted, it's the end of the day, and I sit down on the couch, and we spend 30 minutes where it's just my wife and I hanging out together. And then she goes, "You're not talking to me. How come you're not talking to me? You have nothing to say? I haven't seen you all day. You have not." And I'm just like, oh, it's just the silence is okay. We're okay alone together. And so it's kind of a nice interlude between Still in Love and the first single from the album, Go to War. Again, I have to ask, this particular song, personal, political, a little bit of both?
Yeah, when you see the music video we've done for this song.
And all we have is a lyric video, which came out today, right?
Yeah. Okay. I won't give too much away, but basically the music video kind of touches on the fact that there are these what do you call them? Not harmony, but the opposite of harmony, dissonance.
Okay. Yeah.
There's dissonance in our interpersonal relationships, just one-on-one, like we have problems with people that we can't solve. And yet we expect this macrocosm, this giant organization of people called a country, to not have problems with all these other giant groups of people. And really, it's the same problems at the core of it. They are different, obviously, and they interact differently, but the core of them are a lot of the same breakdowns. And so the whole Go to War thing is, it's all the way from personal to political to whatever you want it to be. It's the same problem.
All right, Go to War, cut number 12, and the first single from Nothing More.
I don't know what you had in mind, but here we stand.
I'm confused about the guy. I'm plugging it.
Let's go to war. Let's go to war. We arm ourselves with the wrongs we've done, name them off one by one. Let's go to war. Let's go to war. Everything you say, everything you do, you push it in, and you cut me down, and you cut me down. Screaming at the ones we love, like we forgot who we can trust. Screaming at the top of our lungs, on the grounds where we feel safe. Do we feel safe?
Nice. And, of course, the song ends, Do We Feel Safe or Do You Feel Safe? Do we feel safe? Do you feel safe? What was the word there? Do you recall? I don't know.
It's do we feel safe?
Yeah.
On all of them except the very last one's Do You Feel Safe?
Okay. All right. Wow. Dynamite song.
Powerful.
Yeah, let's move along. Dude, I so appreciate we're almost an hour into this thing, man. I know you got stuff to do, so thank you for taking some time.
Yeah, man.
Just say
For Jave
when.
anything.
Huh?
Said for Jave anything, man.
Nice.
Gave us beers.
Was this one? Did you guys have to debate a lot on whether or not to put a song that sounds? I mean, everything is so produced. There's so many layers to everything on the record, and then you come to Just Say When, which you could almost hear at like a small bar, and Johnny's just in the corner playing acoustic guitar, and was that kind of the vision in your mind when you wrote this thing, and you guys decided to actually put it on the record?
Honestly, this one was met with the most resistance because it's not like us at all. I mean, it's probably the most sappy song we've ever done in our entire career. What Mark just played this thing on an acoustic, and there was no intention of us writing a song. We were just on the bus one day, and I said, "Keep playing that. Like, I was just feeling something, and it was relating to things I was feeling at the time too. So he kept playing it, and it just started flowing, all these melodies, and I was just feeling really strongly about it. And after we finished, he's like, it's really good, but I don't think we'd ever use that for Nothing More.
Yeah.
And so we finished it, and we showed Will, our manager, and he said the same thing. He's like, I don't think that's you guys. And
really?
As time went on, it was one of those things where it's like, you know what? I don't disagree. I feel the same way. I even feel kind of a little reluctant or embarrassed to even show you this song because it is so sappy and like emotional and vulnerable and kind of, emo, if you will. But it's like, I was like, I don't know. There's something real about it. It's something feels right. So we stuck with it, and now we're really happy we did. And it actually turned out to be one of the label's favorite songs, which is never
would agree.
You have to do your sappy song somewhere, sometime, Johnny. There has to be a sappy song somewhere.
As long as there's not a video from the front seat of the tour bus and faithfully, we're just going from tour town to town. Anyways, here it is. Just Say When.
Dream, we used to name the stars, tracing futures lying in the dark. They said we'd never last. The brightest flame burns fast. We say
I like the second vocal in there, the little harmony.
On top there.
Anymore. Tonight we're growing closer, closer to the end. Were we fools for each other, or fools for falling in? Are we looking at forever? 'Cause I don't see it in your eyes. Have you had enough, or do we try again? The glass was half full when we stopped pouring in.
The glass was half full when we stopped pouring in. I love that line. This is a song that you go on Jimmy Kimmel or you go on The Tonight Show and play acoustic, kind of like Armstrong did with Wake Me Up When September Ends. There's nothing wrong with that, man. That's your money song.
No, that's a great song.
That was going to pay the bills.
Pay the bills. Okay, so moving on here. To change or to accept change. The song is called Accept Disconnected. Again, it's an interlude, but very beautiful. This, for whatever reason, this has a very familiar melody that the first time I heard it, it sounded like I had listened to the song a million times. Was this totally Mark's doing?
Yeah, this was all Mark.
Okay.
We gave some general feedback and guidance, but this was a Mark piece.
It's a beautiful piece. Accept Disconnect. Check it out, Andy.
So I have not had the pleasure of seeing you guys live, and now I'm listening to it and listening to the album and hearing the interludes. Do you play this stuff on stage? Does this come through these interludes when you're playing?
If we have a headline show, we have a little more room to work these kind of things in. But I think on this next record, we're going to do more interludes built into the set. We haven't done a lot of them in the past, though.
Nice.
Let's move on. Number 15, Who We Are. This is kind of like the rock anthem on the album. Check it out. Very anthemic, very big.
Yeah.
On the pavement, we're awake in this dream, and we choose to believe that the you that's in me is in everything we're like. It's who we are that keeps me believing there's something here bigger than ourselves. If I'm wrong, then why am I still feeling?
See, Andy keeps tapping his toes over here, and it makes my stupid-ass CD player skip like that. Yes, very anthemic. It almost has a bit of a feeling of ultimate faith in the human race, that we're going to have lots of missteps, but eventually we'll figure it out. Or it's just letting go, let go, let God, as the big book in AA would say. Let go, let God, one day at a time, all that stuff. Right.
It's you know what? Again, I'm going to make the comment about that uplifting. Right. We did a review of Seether a few weeks ago. The Seether's new album, and
so dark,
and it's dark and depressing, and that's who they are. You haven't heard it yet?
No.
Okay. Well,
I've been in my cave. I don't know what's going on in the world.
Wait. Have you ever heard a Seether album before?
Shut up.
Yes.
Andy.
Okay. So it's
fucking Andy.
That's where. But to see, that's where Sean is. That's who he is, and that's where he is, and that's what he sings about. Right? You guys, I'm stoked, and I'm really impressed with the fact that you bring a positive message, and thank you, because I think it's what's needed. Right? It's what's needed in music. It's what's needed in the world.
Well, thanks, man. It's this song especially was probably the most positive one on the record in what felt like a large pool of songs that were, I don't want to say negative in the sense that they're bad, but
angst.
There's angst and there's frustration and sadness. But this one, I think there was a girl that walked into my life actually recently, and I did not see myself getting into a relationship or anything in the near future at all. Maybe for the next few years.
By the way, I like the video in the you're singing some pop song in the Mercedes cruising down the road. That was very funny. She's beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. She's a really, really unique person. I'm sure you'll get to meet her at some point. We'll all get to hang. She breaks all the stereotypes for me. Whereas at first you could judge her, and then you're like, whoa, you're so not what I thought you were, in like the best of ways. And I learned through that experience, through going through a divorce and then going through a little bit of single life and then getting into a relationship, which I did not see coming, where that some of the best things in life are the things you can't control, number one. And number two, even knowing that, we still try to control everything.
Yeah.
And I learned that in my last relationship, and in this one, what's the polar opposite difference in a lot of it is that in one of them, fear was masquerading as love, and in the other, love sometimes masquerades as fear.
Interesting. That's almost a blueprint of my two relationships. For the same kind of thing, married at too young of an age, and I had a house, had a kid, had the responsibilities all of a sudden, and it all happened in 18 months. And then my second relationship I didn't see coming, and all of a sudden I found some woman that we hang out for 3.5 hours in the front driveway, and I'm sitting there with the car idling because we're just sitting there bullshitting, and all of a sudden we realize, we're best friends, even if we're not having sex. I'd love to hang out and just go drinking with you or whatever. You know, you're just cool.
Yeah.
But I like to have sex with her, too. Okay, speaking of that type
Speaking of sex,
positivity.
wait, what's the next song?
No. But Tunnels. Now, this song, to me, sounds like victory. It kind of sounds like rebirth. It sounds like not giving up. And begin. There we go.
I'm not tapping my toe on this one.
Don't tap your toe.
It's that kick drum, right? I can't help it.
I can't believe you still have a CD player.
I know. Thanks.
Dude, it looks like it's like 30 years old. It has like buttons.
We hold our breath, we close our eyes. Stick us born to the other side. We feel our lungs and we pray for life. We feel our lungs and we pray for life. I will make it through this. Digging deep, sinking in. I'm done with everything holding me down. I will make it through this. There's a time to die and a way to live. I'm not going out like this.
Nice. You know, Andy, you had mentioned this a week or two ago when I first turned you on to this album and let you know that we were going to be talking with Jonny here. You said, is there something happening there in South Texas? Because a lot of this reminds me of Blue October, right?
Well,
So,
yeah,
as far as lyrical content.
Some
and
of the lyrics, you sound like Justin, and I like that. It's again such a tremendous variety of sounds and steps and everything in this album.
Are you a Blue October fan, Jonny?
Yeah, actually, I never really knew much about them other than the radio singles, and then we played with them in Houston at this radio festival.
And you saw their show and were blown away?
Yeah, no, I got teary-eyed and chills, and I didn't even listen to them. You know, I didn't even know most of the songs, but Justin's, the band was great, and Justin's performance was so captivating. Like, as a front man myself, I was just sitting there taking notes the whole time. And he actually was watching us the whole time side stage. We played before them. And he was just, I guess, a big fan or whatever. And so it was a huge compliment to us. And so I paid the, kind of paid the favor back in a sense and checked out their show. And I was just insane. If you haven't seen him live, go see.
Amazing.
God. Amazing.
Great.
They were here a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Moving on, almost to the end here. The song is End Begin. And here Alan Watts, at least what I took away from this, Jonny, and tell me if I'm wrong, he kind of talks about power, almost empowerment, not necessarily power in the typical definition of power over another, but empowerment. Do you get kind of that a little bit too, Jonny? Or what do you take away from what Alan is saying here?
Yeah. Man, can you play it?
Yeah.
And then let me.
Sorry, I don't think we're going to be able to get to Alan here because it keeps skipping back to a minute 6.
It's not me. I'm not tapping.
He's not tapping.
I'm not.
God dang it, sorry.
What are you doing?
Kind of MC here. Hang on. Let me see if I can fast forward past that part. That's okay. This is just YouTube, man. We're good.
Suddenly you find you have the power. This enormous access of energy. But it's not power that came to you because you grabbed it. It came in entirely the opposite way. power that comes to you in that opposite way is power with which you can be trusted.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back again. Yeah, that goes back to what we were, when we were talking about who we are, and like some of the best things in life are the things you can't control. Those are the things that's where real power is. When you try to control everything, it's a temporary sense of power.
Yeah. Very cool. Final song on the album, and that last record was so incredibly personal, and songs like Jenny was just once you knew the story behind it, especially, and the song that you wrote about your mother and the loss of your mom, and this one here, everybody has a father, and so I listened to this last weekend. It was Father's Day weekend.
Shut up.
And it made me a little misty-eyed.
This song.
Fade in, fade out.
Well, yeah, and you said this was Mark, right? This was Mark. Yeah, is this Mark's story, Johnny, or is it your story?
Yeah, this was about Mark and his son. In like every song, we personalize all of them to our own stories, but this one is kind of like Mark's God Went North. That one was for my mom. This one's kind of for his son.
Dude, and my heart was breaking because I'm listening to this song, and it hits me deeply personally, and I'm thinking, God, poor Johnny lost his mom and his dad.
No,
and so because you're singing the song, so you're the guy I'm thinking about. So
right.
amazing song. I love this song.
Thank you.
Just the other day I looked at my father. It was the first time I saw he'd grown old. Canyons through his skin and the rivers that made them carve the stories I was told. He said, son, I have watched you fade in. You will watch me fade out. I have watched you fade in. You will watch me fade out. When the grip leaves my hand, I know you won't let me down. Go and find your way. Leave me in your wake. Always push through the pain. And don't run away from change. Never settle. Make your mark. Hold your head up. Follow your heart. Follow your heart.
Yeah, not bad for a choir reject, man. And the crowd goes wild. Wow, unbelievable record, man. I mean, this new album is going to put your career on a completely another level. I hope you're ready for the craziness that's about to ensue. Are you guys? Do you have a time limit? Like, okay, look, we're going to tour for 2 years. You can book us for this amount of whatever, and then we need a break because you've been working hard, man.
We had a lot of time at home this last year, which was very much needed because we were touring maybe a little too much. It really started to put a strain on all of our personal lives and just sanity. And I got bags under my eyes that I didn't have before the last record. But it's not so much a time limit as it is just making sure that we have adequate rest and home and family time in between the tours. And if we have that, then it just we'll kind of feel out how long this record will be.
What's the album release date?
I don't actually know. It's in September.
Okay, yeah, that's what I heard. Now, did you guys, for people who like fan clubs who did the pre-order, are they already able to download the whole thing right now, or you just have a couple of songs that are available for them to hear?
Not yet. Okay. I think we are going to give them the first listen on everything.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly. I think we're still strategizing on how exactly we want to do it, but we're definitely going to hook them up. A lot of them have been supporting us on this record since a year and a half ago.
Okay. I got to say that I'm grateful that I have it and I get to listen to it. if I were watching this video, I'm sorry, you people who are watching, not you, Johnny, you don't get it for a couple of months.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but no, amazing, fantastic to be able to listen to this and to be able to spend this time with you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Great to talk with you guys. Thanks so much for all the kind words and good questions and everything.
Of course, Johnny, I love you, brother, and we will see you out here on the West Coast very, very soon. Oh, by the way, please ask Mark to bring my sunglasses when he comes out to Sacramento. He still has my sunglasses at his house. So
really?
I asked him, maybe just pop them in the mail, and I'll send him COD, and he goes, man, we're so busy. We're doing the... I said, that's all right, man. I'll see you out on the road somewhere.
Just tell him to keep them.
Just keep
Damn it, Mark. No, I'll tell him. Tell
Mark I love him, my son. Oh, hey, go grab Caleb real quick. Can you see if Caleb's here? He wanted to say hi, so I got to at least allow my son to come in and say. He was so bummed. We were going to do this on Wednesday, and then you got ill. Although I did see some pictures from the American Ninja Warrior. Were you like, dog ate my homework, I got these tickets front row for American Ninja Warrior, and then you called in sick on us?
That filming was done maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months ago.
Okay. All right. Here, Caleb, sit down real quick. Sit down real quick. All right. Because, a 15-year-old kid, he's not going to hold anything back. He's taller than I am, dude. He's going to be taller than you when you see him next time, Johnny.
Really? Really?
Yeah. Well, what do you get, 6'2" now? Caleb?
Yeah, 6'2".
All right.
6'2"? And you're how old?
I'm 15.
His voice is all like this now. He's taking after his dad. He wants a career in radio now.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Awesome, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
I love the new album.
Oh, thanks. You gotten to listen to it a little bit?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He has absolutely no taste in headwear. I don't know who that band is, but they're not. I'm not a big fan. But he has good taste in Nothing More music. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you go.
We spent an hour and 15 minutes. Go on with your Friday, Johnny. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna go grab some food. I'm starving, but really good to hang with you guys.
Love you, brother. We're Two Dudes Reviews. We'll see you on the next one.
Later, two dudes and a son.
See you, bud.
Bye. Yeah.
Stop fucking playing with yourself and get your ass over here. Let's finish
You know what? You just fucking blow, dude.